How's it going, guys? Gaming Goddess here with a review on Nights of Azure, an action role-playing game developed by Gust for the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, and PlayStation Vita. In this hack-and-slash action game, the player takes on the role of our main female protagonist, Arisen, who is a half-human, half-demon working as a holy knight. It is up to her to decide the fate of her friends and the world. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at the general gameplay that this game has to offer. Nights of Azure doesn't have a level of difficulty to choose from, but it's not like it's a super difficult game. Or at least it wasn't for me. We are given a tutorial at the start of the game. Of course, you all know how I feel about tutorials, but since we aren't actually given an option to skip it, it's actually pretty helpful once you get through it. The player stays in a hotel where they interact with other characters, buy items, accept side quests, use the arena, and head to the altar where the player can then offer blue blood from the enemies slain to power up Arisen. The altar is story-based, but it's only at the end of each chapter. With that being said, this game has 5 possible endings depending on the dialogue the player chooses, and the relationship Arisen has with Lilith will determine the ending you will get. Now, as I mentioned before, Arisen lives in a hotel during the course of the game, and in this hotel, the player can accept both day and night quests. The player will never actually see Arisen perform any of the daytime quests, but can read about them at the end of the day in the activity log. Aside from the daytime quest, Arisen can perform other activities as well, such as sleeping, cooking, reading, playing cards, fishing, and so much more. By performing these activities, Arisen's spirit, finesse, stamina, and charm will increase. These points are then used to learn new skills, open more daytime activities, as well as have access to some more helpful things. Now, the night quests are a bit different since the player can actually do these quests. Most of them will require the player to fight. The player will receive Libra, blood, or items depending on the quest. The hotel is not the only location that has a shop. Shops can be found throughout the game and are run by demons. Some shops require the player to pay with the in-game currency or with blood collected from battle. Shops will sometimes sell fetish, which I will go into more detail about what these are in a bit, accessories for both Arisen and her servants, and that's about it. Arisen can have up to 4 different items equipped. Of course, these items can increase Arisen's stat. Items don't have to be bought, since the player will find a lot of them when exploring the different areas anyway. Aside from the normal shops, the player also has a trade merchant. The trade merchant will travel to the destination the player chooses and will bring back goods from that area. Now, in order to leave the hotel, the player just has to go through the big spinning door, and after a short loading screen, the player is now on the map. Of course, as you progress through the game and different areas, more areas will open up. The map is very linear and doesn't give the player much to explore. The player collects fetish by fighting or by buying them from certain NPCs. This is a special item that can be actualized and turned into a servant. The player is given an option of 10 different names to choose from for this newly made servant. Each one specializes in different types of attacks, finding treasure, or healing, so it's good to make a well-balanced team. This finally takes us into the battle system. Enemies will appear as the player explores certain parts of the dungeon type areas. The player can use normal attacks with the square and triangle buttons. By pressing the X button, Arisen will perform her special attack. Of course, this requires SP. The player can also switch Arisen's weapon by pressing the D-pad. Now, in order to summon a servant, the player holds down the R1 button and the corresponding button. This is all explained in the tutorial at the start of the game, along with the special skills that your servant has. Now, there is a set time limit on how long you can spend in the dungeon. The player can leave before the time limit if they choose to do so through the menu, or they can leave through a door. Doors offer sort of a shortcut to these areas. When the player beats the boss for the certain chapter that they are on, the night will end and the activity log will appear on the screen. If the player revisits an area, they will have to leave through the menu, a door, or wait until the time limit is up. And since this is a hack and slash battle system, fighting is very addicting in this game. I have lots of fun just running around and fighting things and leveling up my servants. Now that the general gameplay is out of the way, let's take a look at the graphics and audio. Nights of Azure offers both CG images and 3D animations. The CG images all look really pretty as they have some pastel colors as well as dark colors which blend really nicely in my opinion. As for the 3D animation, the characters are proportional and have some pretty good boob physics if you're into that sort of thing. Now, my only issue aside from the clipping is Arsen. Her hair looks weird, and I mean really weird, when she runs. As for the audio, this game kind of reminds me of a fancy Italian restaurant. Just listen for a second. This game has no English audio, but the Japanese voice acting is pretty good. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons based on my personal experience with this game. First, some pros would include a good story, the way the characters develop as the player goes through the game and make choices in the dialogue really helps the story in my opinion. A hack and slash battle system, which is just super fun in general, not to mention you have cute little minions helping you out along the way. Really pretty CG images, and of course the main character has a pretty cool outfit. As for the cons, this game kinda suffocates you with a sort of Yuri girl-on-girl relationship. Now, I have nothing against this, it's fine and all, but I would have liked it to be a little more subtle. I mean seriously, you don't just tell your friends your feelings for her are genuine and dance with her multiple times if you're really just friends. Again, this isn't a major con of mine, it's just they have to rub it in your face like, hey look, Arsen's a lesbian like every 3 seconds, and it just becomes a bit too excessive. Nights of Azure is a decent enough game to still get my approval. The gameplay was really good, the story was very interesting, and I enjoy a good hack and slash battle system every now and then, so thank you for that game. I do like that there are different servants and the player can have up to 4 different decks with 4 servants each, and of course it's not that hard to balance your team. Now, there is fishing, but we never get to participate in this fishing activity. We can only read about it when Arsen does it as a daytime activity. This is pretty disappointing in my eyes because you guys know I love fishing minigames. The music in this game was decent, while inside the hotel you have a nice calming tune in the background, and when you're out fighting the night away you have a more upbeat tune. Being out at night does have a time limit, but that can be increased a couple of times. Arsen's skills, daytime activities, can also be increased, which is a pretty cool feature. Now, I already discussed my issue with this game. I don't like being reminded that the main character has feelings for her friends. It was already pretty obvious when I first started the game, and it becomes really suffocating in my opinion. Nights of Azure isn't too long of a game, it's only about 7 chapters and you get 5 possible endings. With that being said, Nights of Azure gets an overall rating of 6 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like and leave me some comments down below with some games you would like to see me review. I am coming closer to the end of my current lineup and I need some new suggestions. Also, a big thank you to my Patreon supporter Drew for donating this game. I know it was highly requested by a lot of you guys and I finally got to experience it. Gust is an amazing company and I haven't found a game that I hated by them yet. So let's keep it that way. This has been a Gaming Goddess review, and remember to keep on gaming.
指令書